Shelby here. Welcome back to my channel. So today's video is going to be a little bit different. I'm not going to really specifically be talking about any books. This one, I just wanted to kind of put a video and kind of tell you guys more about like my rating system and how I rate the books that I read. Just so I thought this would be good moving forward. So if you're curious, like when I'm talking about a book and be like, oh, I gave this so many stars, you'll kind of understand a little bit more where I'm coming from. And then I'm also going to talk about something I'd like to start this year is talking about giving books a like Steam rating somewhat, just because I feel like Steam is something that you can go one way or another. Like, people are very particular about the amount of Steam that they like or dislike in their romance books. I'm somebody that I usually prefer my romances to have a lot of Steam, and I know that's not how everybody feels. So I feel like that might help with giving recommendations to people. Or like if you're watching my videos and I'm talking about, hey, this book doesn't have a lot of Steam, so I didn't really care for it. That might be something, if you don't like a lot of Steam, you might enjoy that one a lot more than what I do. So that's something I'm going to try to do. Like I said, in all the rest of my videos, where I'm doing like wrap-ups and things, is to mention like the amount of Steam, and like I said, so you can kind of understand more of how I rate my books. So I do rate my books on a 1 through 5 scale, and I do sometimes give half ratings, just because if I feel like something's kind of like in the middle of something. So I usually, with my rating, how I will rate is for the most part based off of emotions. I am just like an emotional kind of person. If you believe in like all of those like zodiacs and stuff, I am a Cancer, and Cancers are very emotional kind of people. They are very attuned to their emotions. And so if a book makes me very emotional, it's going to get a higher rating. I do also, obviously, I do tend to rate things based off of general writing. If the writing is terrible, if I'm finding, that's just something that's kind of a pet peeve for me. If I'm finding lots of like grammatical errors or like sentences that don't make sense, or just in general, like they could have used a really good editor, they're probably going to get a lower rating. Overall plot. Now, for the most part, there are some stories that might have some plot holes in it that I can kind of get over. But if there are like glaringly like things that just stick out to my brain that I can't let go of, then I might get a lower rating. I really enjoy character development, and like I need to have like some sort of like connection to the characters. That'll give it a higher rating. Like I said, Steam. So I'm somebody that I like a lot of Steam in my books. So if what I'm reading has like no Steam to it or very low Steam, more than likely it's going to have a lower rating, but that's not always the case. For the most part, my highest rated books are ones that are really well written, have really good Steam, they have an emotional punch to them or some sort of emotional impact, and then overall memorability is also a factor with my rating. So that, for the most part, means it's easier to like, so I'm trying to figure out how to explain this. So with overall like memorability of a book is, well, after I read it, am I really going to remember everything that happened? So like this last year, I read like 280 books, I think, somewhere around there, which is a lot. And I guarantee you, more than half of those, I don't even really remember reading them or what they are about. But if a book that I read, if I'm still thinking about it now and I'm still remembering what happened in that book, then it gets a higher rating. So that's kind of what I mean. So then how I rate my books. So if it gets a 1 star, which I rarely rate books with a 1 star, because in general, if I am not, so these are the books that I just absolutely, I hate. I do not like them whatsoever. They have no redeemable qualities in my mind. Like I said, I rarely give books this rating, because if I get to a point where a book is going to be this rating, I usually DNF it, because I don't have time in my life for something that I am not enjoying. I would rather stop reading a book that I'm not enjoying and move on to something else. So very rare. It does happen occasionally, but for the most part, I'm not usually going to give books 1 stars, because I just stop reading them. And I usually don't rate my DNF books, because I feel like that's not fair of me to give a rating to a book that I didn't finish. And then 2 stars are going to be, I dislike that book more than I liked it. So it may still have parts of it that I like, but overall it has things that I just do not care for. 3 stars are going to be more neutral, and 3 stars are not bad books by any means. Usually a lot of my 3 stars, I really like them, but for whatever reason, it doesn't have more of an impact for me. A lot of times memorability is the biggest thing. If it's a book that I really enjoyed, but at the time, but I know I'm not going to remember anything about it, then it's probably going to get more of a 3-star rating. And then, yeah, if it just doesn't have enough of emotion to it or any of those other things that I really crave in my books, it's going to get more 3 stars. 4 stars are going to be the opposite of the 2 star. It's going to be, I had more things in it that I liked than what I disliked. But for whatever reason, there's just something missing. Something to push it over the edge to make it a 5 star. And then my 5 stars, I'm pretty stingy with my 5 stars. I tend to rate books more in the 3 to 4 star range, just because I feel like if I'm going to give a book 5 stars, it had better be an freaking amazing book. It is a book that I loved, that I overall liked, that I don't really have any dislikes to it. It is a book that has some sort of, like I said, emotional impact to it, or it is something that it's a book that I just can't stop thinking about. So I tend to, like, throughout the year, I will give some books like 4.5 stars. If there's a book that I'm just like right on the edge of if I think it deserves a 5 star, sometimes I'll give it 4.5 stars. And then later on, like several months later, if I still remember that book, if I'm still thinking about that book, then I'll bump it up to a 5 star, because like I said, that memorability factor, if I'm still stuck on that book and still thinking about it, then it obviously had some sort of impact on me to be able to remember it that well and to still be thinking about it. So then it'll get a 5 star. All of that makes sense to you. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of insight into my rating system. So then with my Steam system that I'm kind of doing, in the past I had tried doing it based kind of similar to like stars, like get like 1 through 5 or something like that. But that just got a little bit too complicated for me, and it was a little bit harder to do. So I think I'm going to do it based off of 3 categories. So we have low to no steam, then medium steam, and then high steam. So for me, low to no steam are going to be typically more books like young adult books, or more like clean romances, which I typically don't usually read. I do read some YA romances, where it's more Like if there is any kind of steam, it's more of that like fade to black kind of thing. There's not a ton of like details to it. And it's very like short. It's just like maybe a paragraph or two leading up to it. And it's not really dwelled on too much. Like I said, that's pretty, for the most part, I found pretty typical and more like YA type of stories. So then we have medium steam, and this I would consider, it has maybe like one sexual scene in the romance book, maybe two at the most, and they are talked about, but they aren't really dwelled on too much. Or the sexual scenes that are written are only maybe like a page or two in length. They don't typically have any more like kinky elements to it. So these, for the most part, I tend to find them more in like new adult romances, which kind of makes sense because I feel like, to me, new adult is like the gateway from young adult to adult romances, but not always the case, again. And then for the most part, more traditionally published romances. And again, this is not always the case because I have found some traditional published romances that I would consider more high steam than medium steam. But again, like I said, that's for the most part. A good example of this is a lot of like Christina Lauren's stories are more, I would consider, like medium steam. And then we have high steam. So these are the like sexual scenes that are in these books are going to be they're going to be a lot longer than a couple pages. They're going to have a lot of detail to them about what is going on in the act. Sometimes these can be as long as like an entire chapter of the book. So again, be much more longer. A lot of times these also have more emotion during the sexual scenes. So these are going to be more so books. They may also have, if there's like multiple partners, they tend to be more high steam, more kink maybe involved, like, you know, just kind of kinks in general. And these, for the most part, I found is going to be more so in independently published romances. So this is where I usually tend to fall. These are the kinds of books that I usually tend to gravitate towards. So examples of these would be like Sierra Simone is very high steam, Pam Godwin, Nikki Sloan. I have one of her books right here from the Blindfold Club series. All of those, which the Blindfold Club takes place, it's like a sex club. So yes, so those are all going to be pretty high steam. So like I said, I'm going to try my best moving forward to mention the steam scale when I'm talking about books, just to kind of help you all out with helping you find books that you would like to read. Because like I said, I know a lot of people will say yay or nay to books solely based off of how much steam is in them. Like I said, I'm somebody that I tend to like a lot of steam in my books. So if I hear that a book doesn't have a ton of steam, I'm not as likely to pick it up, unfortunately. I might still try it, but for the most part, those books tend to not get as high of ratings for me. So that's just my personal preference. But anyway, so yeah, so that is kind of how I rate my books and my rating system, steam kind of system, scale. So I'm hoping moving forward that'll kind of help you out with knowing how I like my books, and like I said, that it might help you find books that you enjoy and might help me with my recommendations of books for you. So if you like this video, make sure you hit the thumbs up button on it, and if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, make sure you do that so you can see more videos from me, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one. Bye guys!